Hey there, welcome to episode 82 of the Social Business Engine podcast. This is the podcast where I invite leaders from brands across all industries who are excited to share with you, the modern business executive, how to use social media in your business strategy. I'm Bernie Borges, CEO of Find and Convert, and your host of the Social Business Engine podcast. On today's episode, you're going to meet Shelley Sessoms and Chris Hemedinger from SAS. Now, SAS is a recognized leader in business analytics software and services since 1976 and the largest independent company in the business intelligence market. Chris Hemedinger is Senior Manager of Online Communities and leads the team of community managers for communities.sas.com. Shelley Sessoms is one of 3 community managers. Chris, Shelley, and the team of community managers encourages peer-to-peer help, shares helpful technical content, and helps community members stay up to date on the latest software techniques and features at SAS. Now on this episode, we're going to look at the evolution of SAS's global online community of users. Specifically, we're going to discuss how their online community plays a pivotal role in their customer support strategy and the community's marketing value to SAS. Now, this episode is sponsored by Vanilla Forums, the creator of a leading online community platform used by companies to engage customers, employees, and fans. We've published a social business journal issue with Vanilla that's titled The Community Playbook. This guide provides all the information that's needed to launch an online community and keep it thriving. This journal is available for download at our website at socialbusinessengine.com/journals. In other words, it's the journals page on our website. Or you can just visit the show notes page on our website for this episode for a link to download the Community Playbook from Vanilla. Now, if you're mobile right now and you're wondering if our website is mobile friendly, the answer is of course it is. So go for it. And if you're subscribed by email to get our weekly podcast updates, which we send every Friday, then you've already been notified about this journal. It's in your inbox. Just go dig it out. And if you're not subscribed to our weekly updates by email, just visit our subscribe page at our website at socialbusinessengine.com. And now here's my interview with Chris and Shelley from SAS. Chris, Shelley, welcome to the Social Business Engine podcast.
Thank you, Bernie. It's great to be here.
Very good to be here, Bernie. Thanks so much.
Terrific. I've been looking forward to this conversation. I think you know from our discussion before we started to record that I did the math, and your company is 39 years old. So in addition to a big birthday that's coming up for the company, I would imagine that as a software company, you've been providing support since the beginning. I don't know that you've been providing online community support for 39 years. So maybe you can give my listeners, start with, what's the background? How did you evolve in your support strategy? How did you evolve to launch an online community?
Okay, Bernie. Well, thanks. Yes, SAS has been around for a long time, especially considering it's a software company. So nearly 40 years. And in the early days, they were, of course, just a few employees providing support, mostly via phone. And they were also the people who were developing software and writing the documentation. So it was direct line of access to the experts. But those days, of course, as the company has grown, it's been difficult to scale that. And so now we have much more sophisticated methods to support our customers, including the online communities. Mm-hmm. Our online communities were stood up over 10 years ago, actually, as part of our support site, an extension of our support site. And really, to be honest, there wasn't a whole lot of strategy behind it. It was a set of discussion forums that customers just began to gravitate to and organically fostered communication amongst themselves. Not a whole lot of intervention from SAS. The conversations were just mostly peer-to-peer between the customers, and it was just a service that SAS provided a platform for them to have these conversations with each other.
Was it on your website?
It was linked from our website, yes. So linked from support.sas.com.
Okay.
They could find the online communities. But the thing that has changed recently is we've actually now have a formal group, myself plus Shelley and a couple other people, Anna and Beverly, who look out for this community site and use it. It's still there for peer-to-peer support, of course, but we also curate good content. We solicit content from customers and from people at SAS, and we're much more proactive about making sure that the good technical content gets out there and that the burning questions that people ask get answered in a timely way, either by their peers or by experts here at SAS. We've recently just relaunched this community site with a new look and feel, but also with this new focus with much more energy behind it.
Okay. Now, all my listeners know that I always link up things we discuss here. So obviously we're going to have links to the website, to the community website in our show notes page. Now, full disclosure here, I did not see it previously, so I don't have a before and after image in my head, but I like what I see. Very contemporary, very nice look and feel. And you also stressed that it's mobile friendly, right? So your customers, your community users can access it from a mobile device, correct?
Yes, they can. If they use their mobile phone, they'll get a mobile version of the site, which is lightweight. It's very functional. It gets the job done, which our users really appreciate. If they access from a tablet, they'll get basically the full site, same as they do for their from their web browser.
Okay. Now, Chris and Shelley, we were discussing a little bit before we recorded how you are staffed, how you're organized, and the title of community manager. And you even made reference to, some other communities use different titles. Maybe you can explain that whole process, your thought process, how you arrived at that, and what the specific role of each community manager is.
Sure. I'm going to let Shelley talk about the role of a community manager, what she and her peers do, but I will just talk about the title a little bit. Community manager is just one of those titles I think that resonates with our users. They understand that somebody with a community manager title is going to be looking out for their content and to make sure that their answers are going to come in a timely way. I do know that some other companies use the term community moderator, and then reserve the manager title for the person who's in charge of it all. We just haven't adopted that here. Moderator is that role here at SAS, because there's only the small group of us. We rely on a hub and spoke type of model for getting good content into the community. SAS, as a set of software products, is so large and requires so much varied expertise that there's no way that we, as a group of community managers, can handle all of that content. We rely on our colleagues around the company to help us do that, and they do some of the moderation as well. So for internal and external purposes, we call ourselves community managers and sort of deputize a bunch of community moderators around the company to help us out.
Okay. So, Shelley, you're in the hot seat every day as a community manager. Give my listeners a little insight into what your day or a week looks like in that hot seat.
Okay. Well, I'll start with a visual, and I like to say that we are a bit like a herder of cats.
That's a visual.
Yes. As Chris said, there's so much going on in the community. We have customers, we have employees, our peers that we're working with. We have the vendor that we're working with. And so any given day, it can be anything from looking through the set of questions that has come into our particular managed communities, making sure the customers are getting the answers that they need. If they aren't, we pull in employees who have the expertise who can help answer those questions or point us in the right direction. If we see a certain set of questions coming through on a routine basis, then we might decide, hey, let's go out and tap someone on the shoulder and get them to write an article that helps explain this concept or this idea a little bit more. Let's get that out on the community so that maybe we can head off some of the questions that are going to come.
Okay.
We like to do, we like to kind of poll our customers and find out, what are your top business pains? What can we help with? So there's a lot of asking, answering, searching out content, finding the best places to put it in the best format for it to be in. Should it be an article? Should it be a blog post? Is it just a Q&A? And so it's putting on and taking off a lot of different hats to get the customer what they need throughout the day and throughout the week.
Okay. And that does sound like a hot seat, Shelley. How do the three community managers work? Are you all like in the same community, or is there a division of responsibility among the three of you?
There is, Bernie. The three of us have our specific managed communities. And so we have a total of somewhere around 20 different communities on our site or boards on our site.
20, Shelley? Wow,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Some of those just kind of naturally run. There's a great core set of customers and employees who keep the conversations going on those communities, and we just kind of check in and make sure everything's happening the way it's supposed to. Some of the other ones need a little bit of help. They're either key initiatives for SAS or there are things that may be a little bit more complicated. That do require some specific articles and some specific hand-holding. So we each have specific communities that we manage, anywhere from 2 to 3 communities, and then we take on specific projects. So we have someone dedicated to bringing employees into the fold and helping them get accustomed to the communities. We have someone who's going to be working with our super users. We have someone working on the onboarding process. So we meet regularly to talk best practices and share ideas, but we certainly have our specific communities and our specific programs that we work on individually.
Okay, great. Thank you, Shelley. Chris, I want to come back to you because I want to ask about your staffing level. There's 4 of you right now. Did you start out with 4 day one, or did you start out with 1 and evolve? You want to give some insight into that?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I'm sort of new to the role myself, relatively speaking. The program, as I mentioned, started out kind of organically with just standing up a set of discussion boards. But then SAS began to add some more focus to specific communities, things that were key initiatives for SAS. And we assigned a community manager to run those programs. So that was Anna Brown, who was our first community manager in that role before we even had a dedicated group to it. I came on later as it was decided that we would actually build out this program even more with more staff and more focus. And so I came on from another job at SAS. I've been at SAS going on 22 years in various roles. And was already involved in the communities as a participant, but I came on as the manager of the program just less than a year ago.
Okay.
And then my first job was to hire 2 more community managers, and so that's where Shelley and Beverly came from.
Yeah,
you've
got a great picture of the 4 of you on the website, and again, we'll link that up in our show notes. But that's another great visual. Although I didn't see, Shelley, any cat herding going on in any of those visuals, but
that's all in the background, Bernie. Yep.
So with a mature company, again, 39 going on 40 years old, you're a company that obviously has been mature in the way that you do your marketing. And I'd like to talk about the relationship between your communities and your marketing strategy.
I can take that one if you want me to, Chris.
Yeah, please.
I've been at SAS almost 14 years, and all of that either in a marketing or support group. And so there are a lot of ways that our customers talk to us as well as each other. Communities being one of the newest formal programs. We also have a social media program that certainly we as community managers utilize that social media component an awful lot, making sure that the messages that are resonating within the community get spread out to a larger audience. We also have technical newsletters and blogs that some of the content goes out on, and we as a team sit down and look at the content that we want to share, and we help decide, is it best for a newsletter or a blog, or is it that specific that we want to put it in the community, because those are our core group of users, and that's where they live and breathe mostly, is in the community. We also have a publishing program here at SAS called SAS Press, and a lot of our community members have purchased books that are written by other SAS employees, some of whom are involved in the online community. We have live user group events that are support oriented. So folks like Chris is involved in the community. He's written a book. He speaks at live user events. So it's full circle. Our community is really one little component in a great big support engine that we have. And it's there to allow people to get the information the way they want it. Some people are just naturally drawn to sitting and watching online forums as opposed to going to a live event, and that's the way they learn best. So it's a natural fit to provide the information when they need it and where they need it.
Both of you have been at SAS for many years, so that's really hugely valuable to the communities, because you know the company, you know how it works, you know the customer base, and you've seen the evolution. Can you speak a little bit to how SAS employees participate in the community, and also, if you would maybe, under the covers a little bit, talk a little bit about how is it easy to get employees involved? And if it's not easy, is it easy or is it hard, or somewhere in the middle? And just kind of speak to that whole employee involvement in the communities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It is easy to get some employees involved. There are some employees for whom it would be difficult to not have them involved. They're just so driven to communicate with customers and share what they know. So we do have some super users among our employees as well.
Okay.
Our challenge is, which we are ramping up on, is getting even more people from SAS involved to share their expertise. The idea of communicating directly with a customer who basically is your end user. SAS is a software company. We make software products used by lots and lots of people. And there have traditionally been very few opportunities for the people who make the software and support it to actually communicate directly with customers.
Mm-hmm.
That has always been the realm of, a dedicated technical support person, or maybe a dedicated sales or marketing person to talk to customers.
Right.
Getting people who are not accustomed to working with customers to communicate with customers is sometimes a challenge. But the biggest challenge is letting them know that they have permission to do that.
Right. Right.
And making sure that they know that it's good to have these conversations. That it only helps the relationship that we have with customers. It won't hurt it. It's just making sure that they know that we have some policies and procedures that are here to help them, and gives them a way to communicate with customers in these channels.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, Chris, I noticed in the video that's on the public page on the website that you had become, I believe it was a superstar or something to that effect. So I wanted to ask you to talk about what that really means. You've got ranks and badges that you distribute in the community. So you want to speak to the strategy behind that and how that's working?
Oh, yeah. We don't use this term among users, but it's a gamification aspect
Right.
of the community. We don't tell our customers that they're being gamified,
Right,
but they are.
And they know it though.
They know it. They know it. They're not necessarily familiar with that term.
Right.
But there's a couple of different aspects to it. One is the idea of rank or ranks and statuses. As you join the community and spend time in there and begin to ask questions and respond to questions and participate more and more, you can rise up in rank. And we have, each rank has some catchy title. It's got a different icon, different visual, so that you can see how you're climbing up the rungs of the status ladder, and compare that with how your peers are doing as well. And one of the key aspects of this ranking is that there's no top. There's no peak. There will always be another status for you to attain, and we hope that helps to keep people engaged and motivated.
That's interesting, really. So there's no ceiling then.
No ceiling, right?
Interesting. Okay.
At least we'll make sure there's no ceiling. The other aspect is badges. Badges are awarded for specific activities on the community. The first time you post a question, the first time you answer a question, the first time one of your answers has been marked as an accepted solution, the first time one of your responses has been liked by 5 people, and on and on and on. There are dozens of badges, and we're always adding to that as well. And that's just another way to recognize the activity and contributions that people have on the communities, and off the communities too. To be honest, it's our badging isn't limited to the boundaries of the community platform. We also will recognize when users do things outside, and we're adding to that program as well.
Interesting. So the gamification is well received.
It is, yeah. It does really motivate people. It's funny when you talk about it to folks who are not in this business. They give you this look like, really? People are really motivated by that, but it's true. They are. At least some of them are, and it does make the time you spend on the communities more fun.
Sure.
If it doesn't, if it doesn't drive you in an obsessive way, at least it makes the whole experience more enjoyable.
Sure. Okay. Well, in the remaining time that we have, where I'd like to go next before I kind of summarize what we discussed and then go to my final one thing question is I'd like to talk about what's next. What's on your horizon? Is there anything tied to the 40th anniversary, or perhaps not, but just what's next in your communities?
Well, we are always expanding the number of communities that we have. SAS has a wide variety of products, and not all of them are represented on the community just yet. And so we are always wanting to build out that footprint. We didn't really talk about it so far in this in our discussion so far today, but
then let's talk about it now.
Okay, then. But communities are a key initiative in our support pillar, right? So they are not tech support. We have a very well-respected technical support group who are famous among our customers for providing very thorough, friendly support. But customers these days, many of them want to self-serve and they want to find answers on their own, and that's where the support communities can really help. And so providing more places to discuss the products that they use within our community is key to making sure that they're going to find the answers that they want on the community.
Okay. Terrific. From a community manager's perspective, Shelley, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
I think where we're headed is just recognizing those folks that are instrumental in the community, the people, the customers who are out there answering the questions, alerting us to things that as community managers may have slipped by our eyesight, answering and encouraging people who may be a little bit shy from a customer standpoint to be on the community. We definitely want to make sure that those people are recognized and rewarded. So that's something that's on the horizon for me.
Interesting. Okay, so to kind of address the shy people and give them some well-deserved recognition.
Absolutely.
As well as maybe get them involved a little more. Awesome. Well, let me do this. I always get a little nervous myself when I get to this point in our podcast because I've been taking some notes here, and I'd like to kind of recap for my listener who is oftentimes mobile, and even if he or she is not mobile, I kind of want to give a 1-minute version of everything we just discussed, and then I want to wrap it up with my one thing question. So what I heard is that in your nearly 40 years at SAS, you've always been very devoted to providing outstanding customer support. But of course, in the early days, it wasn't very scalable. So in recent years, as online technologies have evolved, you've evolved your whole community strategy. It just began with discussion forums in the beginning, but very recently you formalized it, created this awesome group of 4 professionals. And today you're focused on curating content from both SaaS people and customers. You've got a whole new look and feel that's also mobile friendly, a lot more energy. You've got some gamification that's going on. The community manager really is the person in the hot seat, as I said to Shelley, that's just making it happen in the trenches with the customers as well as internally, just kind of, as Shelley said, herding cats to make sure that everybody gets the attention that they need, people find the answers that they need, and you create the content that's needed that addresses questions that you hear over and over again. You've got 3 community managers, and I think you said that each one of you is responsible for 2 or 3 communities with, I think you said, was it 10 communities or 20? I don't think I noted that.
Close to 20, yes.
20, yeah, that's pretty substantial. You mentioned that customers are always talking to you, and this is just another medium, although a big one. They talk to you through social media. You can communicate with them through newsletters and blogs. You've got your own media channel called SAS Press. You've got people who have authored books. And the community is a place where all of this can come together. You even have employee engagement. Some are super users, but you also mentioned that one of the challenges is to get even more SAS employees involved, especially among the product development universe of people. And then we talked a little bit about the gamification, the ranks and statuses, and how you don't have a ceiling on that. When people engage, they're given some kind of a rank, but again, you've got no ceiling on that. And then the badges, and how you award badges for people who answer questions, or their questions get accepted as solutions, or their questions or their answers are liked certain times. So the whole ranks and badges gamification thing is pretty well received. And then we capped it off with discussing kind of where you're headed, and that's really expanding the support for more products at SAS, recognizing that the community is just another place for support, another option for support. Seems to be a very widely accepted one, and one that's very popular from what I'm hearing. And also you want to recognize customers more thoroughly and encourage people to participate and recognize them more frequently. So that's kind of my wrap up on key takeaways. Tell me if I missed any key takeaways that you'd like to include.
Oh, I think you did a pretty good job there, Bernie.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, then on that note, I would like to go to my one thing question. And this is where I ask you, again, for my listener who's been sitting with us or jogging with us for the last 30 minutes, What one thing would you suggest that is an actionable takeaway for my listener from this conversation?
Well, for me, I would say, look, if you are a organization who has customers, they are talking about you somewhere. So if you do not have a branded community, something that you host, those conversations are going to be somewhere else where you have less ability to monitor and contribute. They may be on LinkedIn, they may be on Stack Overflow, they may be, and our customers are no different. They do have conversations in all those areas, even though we do have a branded community. Considering, if you don't have a branded community, consider the option and the advantages that can bring you to host some of these conversations and bring more of your in-house expertise to bear on an engaging conversational community.
Yeah, and Shelley, before I turn to you, the word that really strikes me in your response is host. Host those conversations. Because as you say, Chris, they're having those conversations. So if you can provide a community where you host those conversations, then everybody can win from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Shelley?
Absolutely. And Chris and I did not discuss what our one thing was, but mine is very similar to Chris's in that it's listening to your customers. As Chris said, they're out there, they're talking. If you don't have a place for them to do it, find out where they are and lurk for a little while. Listen to what they're saying so that you can improve your business and improve your communications. And in doing so, if you can develop an online community, great. If not, make sure your marketing is answering the questions that are being asked, whether it's, at a live event or at another community. That's my key thing. And everything that I do is just listening to the customer.
Outstanding. That's great advice. Great advice. Well, Shelley and Chris, where would you like to send people to learn more about the SAS online communities?
Well, I think the obvious place, Bernie, is communities.sas.com. That's our site, and that's the best place where you can learn about it.
Terrific. And of course, my listeners know that we will have that linked up in our show notes page. So Shelley and Chris, thank you so much for jumping on this podcast with me here today to share your story, your online community success stories at SAS. Very inspirational. I know my listeners I got a lot out of it, and I know my listeners did too. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Bernie. It was a pleasure.
Terrific. Well, before we sign off here, I want to remind everybody that we have published a Social Business Journal issue that is in cooperation with Vanilla Forums titled The Community Playbook. This guide provides all the information needed to launch an online community and keep it thriving. This journal is available for download, of course, at our website. Just visit the journals page or the show notes page for this episode at our website. And if you're already subscribed by email to get our weekly podcast updates, which we send every Friday, well, then you've already received it. Just go dig it out of your inbox. And if you're not subscribed to our weekly updates, I would encourage you to subscribe so that you don't miss a future episode. Just visit our subscribe page at socialbusinessengine.com. And if you're a regular listener to the Social Business Engine podcast, well, first, thank you. I really appreciate you taking some time every week to listen. And please consider writing a review on iTunes for our podcast to help others discover it. Just visit socialbusinessengine.com/iTunes for a direct link. And of course, we invite you to engage with us on our social media channels, including Twitter, Facebook, and Google+. And of course, follow our hashtag SBE Show. And that is going to do it for this episode. Once again, I want to thank my guests, Shelley Sessoms and Chris Hemedinger from SAS. This is Bernie Borges of Find and Convert, wishing you continued success on your social business journey.